Hello.
Hello.
All right. So here's our random question. I pulled it out of this jar of little random discussion topics from ChatGPT.
Oh, I think they all say the same thing.
Oh, do you?
No.
Well, if that's true, here's what they all say. Is time more like a river flowing forward or a landscape, all moments existing at once?
I would say for me, it's like a landscape.
And how do you see it as a landscape?
Well, you take, for example, a mountain, and it's been there for not just thousands, but probably millions, do you know? Millions of years. And there can be a tree that's sitting there in the landscape that's only 30 years old, or a river that's been cutting through the earth for several hundreds of years, but isn't nearly as old as the mountain, and I just got a cramp in my foot. So I think I see time a lot like that.
So when you're looking at this landscape, when you're looking at the river and the mountain, these you're not necessarily thinking of the time that it took for the river to cut through, or how long that tree has been there. You're just viewing it all in that moment with a sense of the time that was involved.
Not even a sense of the time, it all just is. And even like going there in my mind, I saw it all and I was there. I was transported to this place, and right in the middle of it all, encompassing it all, is God. The universe, it's a little tiny speck, incomprehensibly small part of the universe. And yet it fills my heart to capacity in a way that it feels like it's too big to fit into the universe. That vision, that landscape is too large, and the way it makes me feel is too large to fit into the universe. I experience that.
Now, probably why I tend to think of time as being more flowing than landscape, which landscape is a difficult concept for me to wrap my head around when it comes to time, is because I'm insatiably curious about everything, and I know that you are as well, but something about you supersedes that to seeing time as a landscape. Because to me, if I'm looking at something or experiencing something, I'm thinking about the time that evolved to get the things in that scenario into the places that they're in. So it's almost like I'm trying to, what's the word for it? Backtrack or fill in. That's
because you're analytical.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You don't consider yourself analytical?
I'm highly analytical, and you can't tell. But I'm highly analytical, and as I analyze, I always come to the same end. I always end up coming to the same conclusions, which are very similar to how I just described how I feel about time and a landscape.
Well, explain that analysis to me.
Yeah, I'll end up there in the end, because the analytical part of me actually enjoys thinking about how long it took for the earth to become what it is today, the way we know it. And the first time I ever really experienced feeling God's presence in my life did not come to me remotely close to the way it comes to other people. I was sitting at the computer reading about the creation of the universe, theories of physicists, and it started talking about the atom and the space between the center nucleus of the atom and its nearest electron, and that if you could blow that model up, that the nucleus and the nearest electron would be so far apart that the one would be in my hometown, because I was using my hometown as a scale as I read the article, and the nearest electron would be at this city that's quite far away, and all the rest would be empty space. And that it's spinning so fast, it creates what we know as matter. And as I started to comprehend it, it occurred to me, and I would have been, this was probably 25 years ago. So I would have been like about 40 years old. And I thought, I got chills. Like I started to tingle with excitement. And I felt God's presence as I was reading this article about atoms. And I thought, I was always told we're more than 90% water or some huge amount, of water. But even the water really doesn't exist. It's just all atoms. Everything's atoms. That means that we're very similar to like a projection maybe, or like a hologram. I don't know what I am. I'm empty space. There's a God. I started thinking, there's a God, and I could feel God's presence. Like there's intelligence involved in my existing and being able to touch myself. And it explains why when I was about 4 years old, I went running around the yard going, I have hands. I have hands. And I was wiggling my fingers, so excited, just because I was touching my body and thinking it was amazing that I was solid. I think that there was a reason for my responding to the sight of my hands that way. Something in me knew that we were way more than just our body.
Well, that's a whole different topic right there.
Well, you know me.
But, when I think about time flowing and the landscape, when I think of the dichotomy of the two, I think of like the stars at night. Because when you look up at the sky, you're seeing a landscape, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're not evaluating the amount of time. Like some of those points of light that you're seeing took millions of years to get here so that you could actually see. So whatever you're seeing happened like 1 million or so years ago. But yet, that's not your first impression. Your first impression is of the landscape of the sky. So by that example, I think that I could understand the concept of viewing time as more of a landscape than I would normally do in my daily life. I tend to think of time as flowing in my daily life, especially now that I'm getting older. And, people have left, you being one of them.
I'm right here.
Yeah, it's true.
I've been here
right
all along.
Really? Yeah, so, back in times when the family would all get together and you had these great memories of things from your youth and not so good memories as well. But I seem to always be aware of how the time is constantly flowing. And when I get a flare-up of diverticulitis, for example, I think, oh, how much time do I have left at this point? So I am painfully aware of the flow of time, usually on a daily basis. And so I don't ever really think in terms of there being a landscape of time. So it's interesting to me that you can see it that way predominantly. And it would be easy for me to come right off of that and say, well, I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can see time as a landscape. But the night sky is probably a good example of me seeing that. So when you're looking at an actual landscape of the tree and the mountain and the river cutting through it, you're looking at it like the night sky. You're just seeing the beauty of it in the moment, which ultimately is where we should all be anyway, right? We should be living in the moment. Because the more you live in the past or in the future, I think the more you build up anxiety in yourself. Things that you miss. Like if you're remembering things that you loved and then you're feeling the anxiety of having lost them. And if you're thinking about the things that you regret or that didn't go so well, then you're feeling the anxiety of how you wish you could have done better at those things.
Yeah, it takes you, totally transports you to that.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of future, then, there are some examples of maybe you're looking forward to something that's about to come up, and that might not be anxiety, that might be hope and joy. But I think a lot of the things that people think about in the future are things that they fear, and that's anxiety. So I think you get anxiety in both directions. But if you can stay in the now, if you can look at time as the landscape in front of you, I think you can be a more peaceful person. And I think maybe that's what you have managed to achieve somehow.
Well,
so tell us your secrets.
Well, I have to say that's really impressive to me that you can get that out of what I've said on practically no sleep. I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't.
Can you bring that microphone down?
Or,
you can bring the microphone down.
I'll just sit back up straight again.
Okay. So anything left to talk about?
I do have one more thing to say about this topic, and I'm going to go there. If I had lived your life, and I don't know what it is in my personality, but I quite often will deeply imagine living someone else's life, what it would have felt like, to the point sometimes I'll even write about it, journal about it, as if I was that other person. If I had lived your life right from the start, to the best of what I'm able to understand about you and your childhood, your upbringing, I would not be remotely capable of viewing life as a landscape or the passing of time as a landscape.
Why do you say that? Because
I had the spiritual support system from my parents. They were artistic. They never were the type to belittle. They both kind of created an environment of magic. And I started to say this when you realized that we weren't recording. I called my mom just a few days ago and said, Mom, I was just laying in bed thinking about my childhood and crying and thinking, if there's such a thing as reincarnation, I want to be born to the same mom and dad all over again, because they were just full of wonder. And both of them creative, and I got to go home to amazing cooking every day and holiday decorations and music, and I was free to not have my defenses up. I was free to not build walls. I was free to be in awe of everything beautiful without having a defense mechanism that I had created to protect me from things. I really grew up with a lot of spiritual freedom, even though I was in a cult. I shouldn't have said that. Mormons aren't a cult. But
do you think that...
I'm not a Mormon anymore.
Do you think that because of the way that I did grow up, that I maybe gained some things that you don't have that
absolutely
are beneficial?
Absolutely.
What would you characterize those things as?
You're stronger than I am.
You think so?
Yeah. You're... Oh, goodness.
But how can you say that? You went through a child of yours who committed suicide, and you turned yourself around from that. You went through the grieving process remarkably fast, I would say, and you turned yourself around from that to just experiencing complete joy about who she was and how she is still present. I mean, I don't know that I could do that. But you did it.
How do I explain you to you?
I don't
because
know.
I would love to explain you to you.
Well, explain me to me.
Because from the moment I met you, I thought, there is an extremely troubled and beautiful human being. And I could sense when I very first met you that you had been through some stuff. I sensed it when I met you. I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know what it was. But from the moment I met you, I saw pure potential. And I guess, how do I explain something so mysterious? Okay. Under the worst circumstances, I took something really positive and built it into, I'm going to paint, I'm going to sing, I'm going to learn to play the guitar. I'm so excited. I'm going to play Star Trek with my big brother, and we'd go out and we had our little make-believe communicators, and we would teleport, and we would also play Land of the Giants together, and I had the coolest big brother. You used it to escape. Mm-hmm. I wasn't using it to escape. You would use it to escape something that sometimes I think, and I'll find myself thinking quite deeply about what you went through in your childhood. And I even think I might have dreamed he told me that, or I think I imagined he told me that. Because some of those things to me were pretty horrific. And I'm not just talking about homelessness, living out of a car, being belittled, the things you went through. I remember you telling me other things too, where I thought that would be life-altering, just absolutely life-altering. And yet you would use it. You developed your talents and creativity so that you could have your own magical world. You didn't depend on your environment. You didn't depend on your mom and dad for that magic. You didn't depend on them to nurture that. So there you have it. There is where you're stronger than me. I don't know that I ever would have tapped into the creative side of me if I were in your shoes.
I don't think I agree with you on that point. I think that we are both very resourceful. I've seen resourcefulness in you. You toilet trained the most orneriest cat I've ever known in my life. You're very resourceful. And I think that if you had gone through the same thing that I went through as a child, I think you would have been resourceful enough to find a way through it.
But I would not.
Just like you have everything that's happened to you in your life.
Yeah, but had I been through what you went through, I'd be way more messed up. Way more messed up.
Oh, I am probably way more messed up than you are.
No, I'd be way more messed up than you are. If I had gone through what you went through, I would be bitter and angry.
I was bitter and angry for a long time.
Because I think about some of the small things, and I won't go into that right now, but I think about some of the things that, well, some people tell me they're small, but to me they're huge. Where I feel like I was deceived, lied to, things didn't turn out the way I was expecting them to. And even when I go back to those memories, I can become angry. I can feel bitter, I can feel angry just because I'm remembering it. Mm-hmm. And it's not even happening anymore. I mean, you lived these things when you were in your formative years. And to answer, and I want to circle back to what your question was. Do you think those things could make you stronger and give you traits and qualities that I don't have? Absolutely. I don't think I would have the courage to sign up and say, hey, if there's life after death, I want to come back and go through what my friend went through. I don't think I'd have the courage.
I wouldn't do that either. I want to live your childhood.
I want you to live my childhood really bad. I want everybody to experience my childhood and my dad. Well, my mom's pretty darn special too.
Does that bring to a close our little discussion topic for today?
Yes.
All right. Well, Lynette, thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I did.
I know I did. And this wasn't nearly as painful as I thought it would be. No. I was like, if there's going to be a camera, I am not on board.
It's nothing.